my show had value and that I'm sorry, that that what I was doing had value.
A few moments later.
And I asked, well, what's the nothing. They were just like, oh, we just want to make some changes. They never said why. So I've had to live in the rumor mill with everybody else.
So you still don't really know.
Exactamundo.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Mika, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks because this is where truth, pop culture, and politics meet. So I want to come on today and talk about somebody that we haven't talked to in a while, who is a habitual repeat offender of the bald-headed reasoning crew. Yes, none other than Joy Reid, okay? Joyless Reid has made a return. When I tell you Joyless Reid is going on a whole media tour, she's going on a whole media tour. I don't know what she has coming up, what she has going on, but she has started to do her media tours and her media runs. Now, if you guys remember, she was fired from MSDNC 13, okay, which is formerly known as MSNBC. And when she got fired, she said that she was fired for being a strong, Black, opinionated woman against Donald Trump, standing up to fascism, when in all actuality, which she revealed on a podcast, she didn't know why she got fired. And lo and behold, here we are months later, and she still doesn't know why she got fired, which she told on The Breakfast Club this morning. Watch.
And it was like a rumor. We were like, nah, we hadn't heard anything. Nobody had called me. Nobody had said, you did something wrong. You're in trouble. You're on probation. I had gotten nothing. Then I get a text message then early the next morning saying, can you talk at noon? And I was fired immediately. There was no warning. So and I asked, well, what's the nothing. They were just like, oh, we just want to make some changes. They never said why. So I've had to live in the rumor mill with everybody else.
So you still don't really know
No.
Okay, so there you have it. Joyless Reid sitting there on The Breakfast Club acting as if she doesn't know why her show didn't make it, okay? She had low ratings. All she did was Trump, Trump, Trump all day. TDS and bald-headed reasoning will get you fired, okay? Now, if you really wanted to have a racist debate, about racism, it wouldn't come from Donald Trump. It would come from Rachel Maddow because she had the same low numbers, okay? Her numbers are in the toilet. And meanwhile, that short-haired feminist is still there. I wonder why. Okay, so it didn't end there. She kept on talking and she got into the usual suspects, Barack Obama, Sleepy Joe, all of those people. And she even said that Joe Biden, aka Sleepy Joe, would be very much so a better president than Trump on any day, even with him being incapacitated. Watch.
I thought Joe Biden should have been forever vice president. I thought he was great vice president. He was a great wingman for President Obama. But as president, again, I had some policy differences with him, but I would still take him and if his brain is mush today over Donald Trump. I'll be honest. I can't understand the thing Trump says. And the difference between Trump and Biden is that Trump is also incoherent, says stupid shit every day, but Fox cuts down his incoherent babble into what sounds like normal speech.
A liar is a liar, especially a bald-headed reasoning one, okay? Because she said that the 60 Minutes thing that Kamala really did, okay? When she started to ramble, when she started to do that, Joy Reid said that it was a nothing burger and she doesn't know why anybody even cared. But yet 60 Minutes actually cut this woman's response because it was stupid and it had absolutely nothing to do with the answer. They said it was nothing, but now it's something when you want to make up something about Donald Trump. Yeah, the bald-headed reasoning is back in full effect. Joyless Reid is coming. All right, so that was Joyless Reid this morning doing her Breakfast Club media run, okay, saying and spewing the same nonsense, okay? This is why she got fired in the first place. Nobody wanted to hear it. However, in this climate, I guess everybody get a job. Her, Don Limon, everybody. However, I want to get into what she had to say last night on CNN. Yes, she was on CNN, the former MSDNC 13 worker. Yeah, she was on CNN talking about Donald Trump and, of course, Iran and, of course, Israel and, of course, impeachment, because they don't believe that Donald Trump needed to go into Iran. And all of the liberals are supporting Iran, a country that doesn't support any of the values that they so-called support, gay rights and all of these other things, abortion, all of it, even the right to show her bald head. But here she is advocating for Iran. I want you to see this. Watch.
I find it rather extraordinary that we are very casually having a conversation about the tactical success or failure of dropping a 3,000-pound bomb or two on a sovereign country that did not attack us. We are failing to unpack or even address, as we're discussing whether or not it was effective how we bombed Iran, whether Donald Trump was correct in saying we obliterated their facilities, and not asking, why on earth is the United States bombing a country that did not attack us? What on earth are we doing there at all? And why is it that there is this arrogance in the West and in the United States to say that we get to decide who can have nuclear energy? We get to decide that, and not just decide it, we get to act on it and drop bombs on a country that didn't attack us. We had no business dropping bombs on Iran. And so the question of whether the tactic worked or not, to me, ignores the fundamental moral question at hand. And I think that I'm not alone probably among Americans who are saying that this was something that we had absolutely no right to do.
Okay, so Joy says we had no business of going into Iran and dropping bombs to obliterate their nuclear facilities. Meanwhile, this is the same Joy Reid who championed Barack Obama, okay? Barack Obama went into Yemen. For what reason? We still don't know, okay? He literally invaded Yemen. He also did the same thing with Syria. He also did the same thing with Libya. When I tell you Barack Obama is a repeat offender of doing these things, he's a repeat offender, and nobody batted an eye. When the Republicans said, hey, why didn't you come to Congress? He said he didn't need Congress. Don't believe me? Look at the Washington Post here. Multiple sources, including the Washington Post, which is a liberal newspaper, confirmed that Obama administration authorized military actions in Yemen, but did not seek specific congressional authorization for invading or launching military operations in Yemen. Okay? That's Barack Obama. All right? And here's the breakdown of what the sources indicated. Drone strikes, okay? Support of the Saudi-led coalition. He didn't ask permission about that. Airstrikes against the Houthis. He didn't ask about that. Okay. Reliance on 2001. Like all of these things, he did not ask Congress. But yet, Donald Trump is a dictator. What do you call this? Barack Obama isn't a dictator? Yeah. You see how they lie? However, let's go back to CNN because you know the bald-headed reasoning with Joy Reid continues, okay? Joyless Reid cannot contain herself. Even though she knows Iran is a bad faith actor, Iran does not like America, does not like Israel, and would, if ever they got them, use nukes, okay? And everybody knew this, including Barack Obama, including Bill Clinton, including Hillary Clinton. They all said the same thing about Iran. But here's Joyless Reid on CNN still defending Iran.
How about democracy? Why are we doing this? Because Israel has a democracy like the United States of America. Joy, the fact that you're backing a country
democracy
that
is not like the
slaughters
United States of
homosexuals,
America.
that slaughters people for their religious beliefs.
In the United
them.
States,
it's crazy that you're
people
like,
who are
Iran.
LGBTQ people can't even serve in the military under the president you prefer.
Okay, but
under,
they are.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're only a little bit. They're only a little bit discriminated against.
We're not killing them.
They're allowed to live, but they're not allowed to serve in the United States military. They're being persecuted. They can't have their stories told in school. The United States is not exactly a beacon of human rights for gay people.
All
the dumbness, all the Trump derangement syndrome, all the bald-headed reasoning that happens on Abby's program, like sometimes I can't take it because they know that they're wrong. Abby argues points that nobody even agrees with, but she'll still argue it just to try to get a gotcha out of somebody. And she has the right person, Joyless Reid. She has her on here to do just that. Okay. She's not doing anything. I mean, she doesn't have a job. So, I mean, she has time. She could come on here and be the liberal antagonist who knows that it's wrong to sit here and say that Iran, that we should support Iran because Iran did nothing to us. When you've had multiple presidents since the 70s talk about Iran, okay, on the Republican side and the Democratic side. But she cannot bring herself to agree with anything about Donald Trump because she despises Donald Trump, just like the rest of the Trump deranged media and Democrats. Now, last but not least, I did a live stream yesterday talking about the race for mayor in New York City. And I said that I thought the socialists, the Muslim socialist, Madami, however you pronounce that name, I thought that he was going to win because he had a lot of the youth vote, okay? And there are a lot of socialists in New York City. But here is Joyless Reid arguing a point for him as well. You can't make this stuff up. She's arguing for Iran and she's arguing for the socialists in New York City. Watch.
There's no one happier after Mamdani and his family than Eric Adams tonight, because everyone over 50 years old who remembers Times Square in the 1970s and the 1980s when you couldn't walk through, it was all pornography and crack and muggings and rapes and robberies. Everyone who remembers that is going to vote for Eric Adams. The New York Times, who didn't do an endorsement, did say, please don't vote for Mamdani, as did the Daily News, as did the New York Post. So anybody who knows how bad New York can get all came out against Mamdani, because a 33-year-old with zero experience running anything except a little office with 5 employees should not be running the city of New York.
Donald Trump is president of the United States. His experience was being on The Apprentice. He's head of the Pentagon. His experience was being a weekend anchor on Fox. Are you kidding me? He's got Dr. Oz is in his administration. Dr. Oz,
you're leaving out something. He's a 33-year-old socialist who's never run a popsicle stand.
He's literally in city government right now. Sorry, after Donald Trump. I'm sorry, after Donald Trump and his Pinky and the Brain administration, no one ever gets to talk about qualifications.
This woman has to be the dumbest. Joyless Reid has absolutely no idea what she's talking about. And it's funny because she's been in media forever, all right? And she used to not be this deranged, but however, she doesn't know what she's talking about because Mamdani used to be a rapper, okay? I showed this on my live stream yesterday. However, he used to be a rapper and he's also a Nepo baby, okay? His mother is a Hollywood director, all right? This man knows absolutely nothing about politics. But we do know he's a socialist. And we do know that he's going to make New York taxes sky high with all this free stuff that he says he's going to give out without telling the people how he's actually going to pay for it. You can't make this stuff up. Democrats just want to destroy everything. And they're on the verge of doing it, including their own party.
Again, will not save
the bottom line is what I want to ask you a question. What is your evidence that Mamdani would return New York City to the 1970s hellhole Times Square? What is your
AOC?
Very simple. So he wants to raise taxes on people who make the most money. What eventually is going to happen is you're going to lose that tax base. Once you lose that tax base, our bonds will get degraded. Now the city budget will not be substantial enough to subsidize not only the cops, but the fire department, the sanitation department. Once you start losing Wall Street and people who pay $11,000, $12,000 a month to live on the Upper East Side, you're done.
And that's something that the Democrats never want to contend with because they're okay with raising taxes. They raise taxes on everybody. And honestly and truly, the poor people, even there in New York, did not want Mamdani in. Most of them voted for Cuomo. He's no better, but he's not a socialist. But Mamdani, he wants to be a full-out socialist, and he wants to go ahead and give away free things without actually telling you how he's going to pay for it. And Joy and the rest of the Democrats are on board with it. I don't know why, but they're on board with it. They are eating their own. All right, so you guys seen all of that. Here are my thoughts. Let's pour it up. Joyless Reid wants back in. She wants back in the mainstream spotlight, and she's going to do it by any means necessary, okay? That podcast, I guess, is not working for her because she's not getting enough reach, which is the reason why she's on CNN and she's on The Breakfast Club. All of these places, she's on there for a reason. Joy Reid wants to be back in the spotlight. However, we all know why she was fired. Her ratings were low. She only talked about Donald Trump, and it was every day. She also bought into the lie that Kamala was going to win, okay? And she told her audience this. Her audience really got pissed off at her, and they got pissed off because she lied. She knew that Kamala had no chance of winning, especially at a certain point when the numbers were coming in. They were being falsely induced. And even when that Iowa poll came out that said that Kamala was going to take all and was going to obliterate Donald Trump, that didn't happen either. And her audience made her pay for it. Even liberals got tired of watching Joyless Reid because she's not reporting the truth, okay? Or even a slither of the truth. Every time they got something, they just look for the fault in it or They made up a fault. And that is Joyless Reid's problem. That's Abby's problem. That's CNN's problem. That's MSD and C13's problem. That's all of these news channels' problem. You could throw ABC and the rest of them in there because they don't report the actual facts. They don't report the news. They just want to make everything Trump bad, Orange Man bad. We don't see the good in anything. Just like she's doing here with CNN talking about the Iran drone strikes. Because Donald Trump has to be doing something wrong. He doesn't know what he's doing. He was the billionaire from The Apprentice. By golly, he has no experience, even though he has multiple companies, even though he literally runs New York, even though he was the man that shoved out the money to get Nelson Mandela out of jail and flew him to where he needed to be in South Africa, even though Donald Trump also gave money to Jesse Jackson and funded all of his stuff, including his presidential runs, even though Donald Trump was the people's champion. He doesn't know what he's doing. But bald-headed reason Joy Reid does know who. And that would be Sleepy Joe and Kamala. That's why she doesn't have a job. You guys get down in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about Joyless Reid's return to mainstream media. Okay, what do you think about it? Is she going to make a big splash? Where will she land? I don't know. I really don't care because Joyless Reid doesn't really give anything that's different from the rest of the deranged Democrats on TV. Only thing she's going to keep giving is conservatives like me and others content. So you guys get down in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe. It's your girl Mika, and I'm out. Peace.